FAVMI presents Unfolding Mental Illness, hosted by Saraswati Suresh.
Hello everyone, this is Saraswati Suresh, founder of FAVMI, and I have my co-host Dr. Sachin Ganorkar with me. It's our absolute privilege to have our episode 2 on the podcast, and I thank all my viewers and members for their overwhelming response to us. Today's topic is the role of family carers, and our guest for tonight is a very, very humble person and absolutely inspiring to all of us. He is a bipolar warrior. Yes, and he had the courage to speak about it years back. And he created a community of bringing people suffering with bipolar and depression and all their families together by Bipolar India. It started in 2013. Today, it is under the aegis of Mental Health Support Foundation. And 2 years back, he even started an initiative for the livelihood of mental health patients called Let's Walk Together. It's an absolute privilege to have Vijay Nallawala with me. Welcome on board, Vijay, and thank you so much for agreeing to do this podcast.
Thank you so much to both of you. I would say it is my absolute honor to be a part of this very, very promising series. Yeah, you people are doing great work in turn as well, and I really cherish this association.
Thank you so much. And also, Vijay is our founder member and our advisor and biggest support to family. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Vijay, when we talk about this topic of role of family carers, the name which came up was just you, because you have been talking to so many families, and people with mental. So your understanding of what goes on with, family carers. I feel today the narrative of the family carers, their journey, the trauma. Some people are having crazy traumatic experiences. It's something which is ongoing. It's not like it ends there. It's a lifelong story. And I think those narratives are not being shared to the world. And we thought we should tell the world of what challenges, the family carers are going through. So I would like to ask you, what do you think, are the challenges today the family carers face?
Firstly, before going to the challenges part,
Yes.
let me say that caring is very contextual, and especially in the Indian scenario, family is an inseparable part of any person living with the mental illness and his or her journey.
Yes.
It's absolutely so integrally connected that you cannot separate the person and the family in most of the cases. Of course, you will come across some people who are the very unfortunate who have been abandoned completely by their families, disowned. We have heard of so many cases like these, right? But apart from that, in the majority of cases, the family rallies around the person. Uh, so, so it's almost like one unit, going through the whole journey process. And it
Yeah.
can be quite a challenge for even the people supporting the person. I would say.
Yes.
Yeah. So what I have observed over the years is, firstly, I mean, it's not, there's nothing which is very black and white in the distinctions that we make. Yeah. But in broad categories, there are family carers uh, who are completely in denial,
Yes.
who sort of negate the person's experience, saying that you don't have anything, you're making up things, and so on and so forth, are not supportive or compassionate at all. Yeah. And on the other hand, we have very evolved, very well-informed, psycho-educated sets of family carers. And of course, who are non-judgmental supporters in the process. Yeah. I think, of course, these are like gold for the people who are living with great difficulties. Because I mean, that kind of a support system is even more important than what is available through the form of psychiatry or therapists. Because we need to understand one goes to a psychiatrist maybe once a month, to a therapist at the most once a week. And also, let's also understand in India, how many people have access to therapy at all? Due to the cost factor, lack
Yes,
of
so
access,
expensive.
being in remote places, not even aware that psychotherapy is something that is beneficial for
True.
us. Uh, there are, in fact, psychiatrists who are in denial and say that you don't need therapy for bipolar disorder. Therapy is of no use, and those kind of things. So there might be people who are, in a position to pay for therapy sessions and are still not being, availing of these services because they have been misguided. So in that sense, we can imagine even, how much more important family is in the, being that environment for the person to be in, that every step the person can be nurtured, goaded on, encouraged. Uh, the family is there with the person through the ups and downs, and that kind of a safe space which can be provided is irreplaceable. That is the first observation I would share. Yeah. So some of the challenges that I have faced, as I said, the broad two dimensions would be again very broadly,
Yeah.
and then I would also say that if one, a parent is in one basket, sort of a basket that we have created in denial, it doesn't mean that the person would be in denial throughout. The changes can happen during the process also
Yeah.
by interacting with other family carers. That realization can dawn. That look, these are genuine issues. Many other people live with these conditions, and then that gradual progress can happen to being that sort of model carer. I don't know if there is anything such
Any,
as a
I was
really
going to
model
say that.
carer. We are all evolving towards that.
True, so true.
Definition of what is a model carer. Because I guess for all of us, it's a learning process. Nobody really arrives at being the perfect. We might have ideals we know about who we revere in the form of compassionate carers. That's about it.
Yeah, true, true, true.
And so one of the, I would name three big challenges that family face, since that was your question,
Yeah,
uh, in terms of long-term care that a person with mental illness needs. And here, let's also qualify it as persons with chronic severe conditions, because then the challenges are a little bit more
more difficult.
different and sort of more hands-on kind of involvement is needed,
True, true.
because level of dependency can be more, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it would also depend on that. So one of the things the family struggle with the most is when the person is not cooperating.
Hmm.
Now we can talk about the person's agency, right to determine what is good for him or her, all those things. That is fine enough. But it can be extremely frustrating for a mother like you if you know that this is the right path. This is, the treatment is fundamental to recovery, therapy, avoiding of substances, going through a regimen of yoga, pranayam, exercise, self-discipline, inculcating a positive attitude towards life. These are the components of recovery, and the person is going exactly in the opposite
Opposite.
direction.
Yes.
So that can be extremely frustrating and draining for the family carer. Yeah, I mean, because when you see all this happening day in, day out, so in effect, both are traveling in different directions. Yeah, the goal is to bring the person in one direction, and it's whatever we say about agency and the person's right. Uh, in India, there are so much, the emotional bonds between carers and the person are so deeply ingrained. It's usual, by and large, the person, the intentions are to support the person,
Yes.
by and large, yeah,
Yeah.
and to help him or her through recovery. And this happens even more so when it is the parents in question. Which
Yes.
set of parents wouldn't want their son or daughter to be independent, functional, and living life fully as anybody else in the world, isn't it? Yeah. That that is one challenge I see. The second challenge I would think about is especially to the where we are talking about aging parents, is the big question of who after me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
And
after me?
although this is so said so often, but I don't think anybody has found the real answer to what is the possibility, what is the support system available to the person, which can completely eradicate the fears and anxieties arising from the question, very question, which continuously bothers us carers,
Yeah.
it's all pervasive. And it has many dimensions. It's not only about finances, it's also about, since we are the support system now, we are offering that safe space, that non-judgmental, environment. How is that going to be replicated?
Yeah.
Would that institution have that kind of empathy or something? Even if I have all the money in the world, will that be replicated? So those are not easily answerable dilemmas for families. Yeah. So, and this is even a bigger question poser to families who have children with very severe conditions and where recovery is very, very challenging.
Very, very
And there
challenging.
are such cases where, unfortunately, despite the best of medical care and other kinds of support, there are so many relapses along the journey that there is a no clear sort of prognosis or outcome that is visible to the carers. The third part, uh, again, this is pertaining especially to the Indian context, is the financial aspect of
Burden, the financial burden.
caregiving. Because, so you talked about our community, and we have a vast community of family carers also, and I have observed. So, for instance, I'll give one instance where there is a mother, daughter, and a son. Okay, the son is the person living with bipolar disorder. Now, I wouldn't want to share any identification,
Absolutely.
sort of
I understand that completely.
narratives. But the sister was a, working professional, and in the journey of supporting her brother, had to quit her job. Mother is a retiree, depending on the, whatever family pension or whatever they had received. So you could imagine this is the kind of a scenario a typical middle-aged family lives with. Okay. So not only is that person living with challenges, in this case, the family carer also has to quit her job to continuously support the person. Because she realized otherwise the toll on her mother was so much that it was unbearable for her, right? Uh, and there is another angle that I see to it, which again we are all doing so much of advocacy for, the lack of health insurance access for people with mental illness. That won't cover OPD expenses because I would say 80 to 90% of recurring costs of a person's living with mental illness are, in terms of treatment, consultations, medicines, whatever, therapeutic support. All that is in, recurring expenses which are not covered under insurance either ways.
Yeah.
But irrespective of that, in case of long hospitalizations of 30, 45 days, even 2 months, so that kind of out-of-pocket expenses crushing to many a family. Yeah. Plus, our public healthcare system isn't up to the mark. So many people, even who can't afford it, are forced to admit their wards in institutions which they drain their finances completely. Yeah. And then again, it's the chicken and egg kind of a scenario. Then again, the corpus to be left here behind to that, their air is also then depleted over a period of time. So it's a vicious kind of cycle and quite a sort of challenging with more real answers to them.
Yeah. So true. I can completely relate to what you're saying. In fact, to most of the people I also speak, these are the challenges. It says, what after me? And, the financial burden, the caregiver burden, I think these are the very big challenges of today. Absolutely right. Yeah.
Also, I would like to add, sorry, please go ahead.
No, please continue. Please continue.
So the two other concerns are I mean, see, whenever a family, you as a mother or anybody else, if I were to be a father with caring, when we mingle with a social circle, we see the other wards being well settled, married, going abroad, and I mean, completely fulfilled in their lives. And then the question comes: is when are we going to see these days? Yeah. So that also sort of kills us from like it. Yeah. Right. And this is not directly related to caring or mental illness, but the social perspective, is marriage at all possible for people like us? Right? Would the partner be supportive enough, or would it lead to a better separation or
Yeah.
friction in the relationship? That is
Correct.
a big, big concern.
Yeah.
Right?
I would also
And
add, social inclusion. So many
social.
families have deserted. They don't make the person part of the. Uh, you know, uh,
Because I would say, having a life partner, I mean, that is a human need.
yes.
And this is again how discrimination shows up its ugly head.
Yes.
And, this entire community is blacklisted. And, we see that the mere mention of mental illness and people, come through with
Yeah.
face a lot of rejections,
Yeah.
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why
So,
when they say stigma, I don't really agree to the concept of stigma. It's because the social the discrimination is the reason why people are not wanting to tell out to the world. So, moving on, Vijay, what do you think? As a role the family carer plays. What is it that they should do? They're doing it correct right now, or they're doing it wrong, or what is it that they need to do? Because I feel there are things also which family carers are doing wrong, and I'm sure you've also had a lot of instances, both baskets, like you said. So I just want you to give me what are those, so members are also aware of it. Yeah.
before that, I would like to share that not everybody meets with rejection in marriage. You have met my wife, Kathy. You know each other very well. So we share a very thriving relationship. So I'm
Yeah.
extremely fortunate. There are such instances in the community as well. So a ray of hope is there. A marital relationship is possible, irrespective of the challenges it sort of brings along
Correct.
with it.
Correct.
Yeah. So just to bring the other side of the picture as well, let's
Yes. Yes.
present the correct one, not just the dismal part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is something which is so important, Saraswati, what you brought up was about what could carers do right to do that. Uh, the one thing is language.
Mm.
I think it essentially begins with language. And language is spoken as well as unspoken.
Sure.
Yeah. In fact, verbal communication gives away much more than our spoken words.
The
Right.
non-verbal.
Uh, so I had undiagnosed illness right from the beginning, my childhood. And I don't blame any of my elderly family members who spoke rudely to me, said that I was not worth anything, I would not do anything in life. Sometimes they do that to motivate you. But for a person with my kind of vulnerabilities, it left very deep scars inside me. And those scars are difficult to sort of eradicate even when going into adulthood. What
Sure.
our psychologist Habobi Bhagwagar talks about as being automatic thoughts. It's
Yes.
conditioning within.
Yes.
Yeah. So our language is so, so important. It's not that we don't have to be firm, but there is a way to go about that firmness so that we do not completely invalidate the person's issues or make that person feel inferior in any sort of way or crush the person's sense of self-worth and confidence.
Mm.
Right? Yeah. So I think many of us need to take therapy ourselves to sort of understand how to deal with our wards, to support them better in their journeys, because each human being has a mental block. Let's understand that.
Correct. Correct.
That mental block or multiple blocks that we have can be a barrier between being the ideal carer that the person so much needs for us.
So
So look, I think it would begin with language. It's critical.
absolutely.
And sometimes we are also human. In a bit of irritability, we might just say, come on, I have tried. I'm fed up of you. I've given up.
Yeah.
That can be so crushing for the person. What is said in a sort of almost casual way by us, it can be absolutely crushing for them. Yeah. Second thing is, so there are two type of parents or other carers. We call them, the helicopter parents is the modern term for them. Yeah, right. So especially the teenagers, the adolescents, or the under 25 age group now is very self-independent. They want to determine everything for themselves. As compared to people from our generation, we were like, we needed a shepherd to guide us. This generation is different. They know what they want out of life. Yeah. So that kind of micromanagement can be also sort of negating for them. Look, I'm capable enough to take care of myself. Yeah. So imposing ourselves on every sort of area of their lives is not what family caring is.
Yes.
That whole demands. Uh, uh, Second important part is sometimes we might not understand what the person is going through.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, especially in a phase of depression or severe anxiety, or a person has, come across some slight among peers or whatever. At that particular time, they might want privacy and just being by themselves. And I've seen some people, and I've been also been guilty of that. When we are so anxious. No, but tell us, why don't you open up? You'll feel lighter, and that sort of upsets the person even more.
More.
How how can I tell you that stay off? I don't want interference at this juncture.
Yeah.
So more probably that opening up happens later. When they are comfortable and they are ready for it.
Yeah.
So at such times, just going there and telling them, look, I'm there for you. You can come to me whenever you need. That is the kind of message that needs to go across.
It's a very comforting and assuring mechanism.
Yeah, I'm just there for you. No questions asked. If that is communicated as, it will do the job, right? And the third part, especially where a person is living with a severe mental illness, double guessing, that are you going through hypomania? Are you going through mania? So if we do that so often, it gets so irritating for the person, then it becomes a barrier. So even when there is a need for the person to be corrected, then there is already that defense mechanism that I'm not going to listen to anything that my parents say or a sibling says, because they don't understand me at all, right? Yeah. They imagine things which are non-existent.
Non-existent.
So it's more important to then observe these things ourselves. Maybe communicate to the mental health professionals if you have a pathway with them, to the therapists or something like that. That I think that there is this change in behavior or pattern that I am observing. Do you think that intervention is required? And then push ourselves into the trying to intervene there. Yeah. Fourth thing, I think it's also there are two ways about caregiving, disciplining a person. So that with anybody living with mental health issues, self-discipline is a massive challenge due to
Absolutely.
various reasons. When a person's self-worth is crushed, there are so many cognitive distortions where the person starts believing that life is not worth living. It comes to that stage,
Yes.
and it becomes a sort of a continuous frame of the thought process, framework of thought process. It's difficult to dislodge that. For that person to be a super achiever and super motivated and hitting the gym every day, that's not so
Not
easy,
possible.
right? Not so easy as well.
Yeah.
It can happen. Again, I'm not denying that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm myself a stickler for the self-discipline and self-care, but it takes a lot of time. So I'm not saying it was a miracle and in a snap everything changed. It was years of inputs for many insightful people that helped me become here. Right? So tons of patience is needed to begin with. Tons of patience. You need, you as a carer want to see the process to happen, but it doesn't happen at the pace you would want it to. That is one thing. Yeah. And then how are we going to uh, try to inculcate those sort of routines into that person's regimen? Yeah. So one way is pushing the person, scolding, berating that person. And as parents, and especially Indian parents or
Try to do that.
any family, that's also ingrained. We have in turn received it, that
Correct.
you better do it, or there is or else kind of a thing. There's no choice was given, and research says that doesn't work. It is research backed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't work because it backfires.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah, rather than that, if we are appreciative about the small steps the person takes, that boosts the sense of self-confidence and self-worth of the person, makes that person believe that by doing a little bit more, I would make myself happier and my family happier. That appreciative process, nudging process is much more better than the pushing process. Right?
Very true. Absolutely fantastic.
These are finer nuances, but for a carer, it's a minefield that we are walking on. So something which seems very irrelevant can make a big difference, isn't it? Uh, and also, if I may add, one of the biggest dilemmas we face during a crisis situation when it's a health emergency. We don't talk often about that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So person is in psychosis, in full-blown mania, or attempting self-harm, or those kind. And we realize then at this juncture, institutionalization is the only possible way to protect the person, from further damage, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I have observed so many carers going through indecision, terrible guilt, that are we dumping our person into an institution, right? It's natural. Again, I'm not
And yeah,
judging
true.
that. I will coaxed a family into doing this process, and it took me 1 month to convince them.
It's a big decision also, no? It's a
Big
big
decision. It took them. Of course, I had left the decision to them. Who was I to determine anything for them?
yeah.
But I said, describing according to the situation which has been described by you, what what the person's psychiatrist has also opined. I think this is, dragging it further will only worsen the situation.
Yeah.
So these are other hard decisions we see that carers have to face. And even after the person is in the institution, like the pangs of guilt, or worry. Is the care there sufficient? Is there abuse happening there? Or are they ill-treating him or her? So many imponderables aren't there, when it comes to caring.
So truly said, I think communication and listening are the most, I think that makes the change, and acceptance by the carer themselves, yes, with this, you can make that, create that safe and harmonious environment for the patient, I think.
You're very powerful. Our acceptance is also so important.
Yes.
So important. And since you brought this angle to it, what about our own self-care?
Yeah. That was my next question, which I actually wanted to ask you.
Such a critical component.
Yeah.
I mean, if we look at things objectively, if we crash, the whole support system crashes. Right? Look at it very objectively, taking aside everything else. Yeah. So even we look at it from the selfish angle, just a logical aspect. But our self-care becomes so important even in the support process for the person. Yeah. Also, if we deprive ourselves of our joys, of our right to live a life fully, that might become a bigger burden for the person.
Very true.
The person who is very empathetic and sensitive might feel that, look, due to me, my sister, my mom, whoever, my aunt, whoever, can't even step out for a social gathering, can't go out for a wedding. And then that also becomes an encumbrance, right? So, in fact, to make them happier also, uh, we also need to our body language. Are we living a life as if there was nothing else bothering us? That's also so important. Yeah. For ourselves also, our own nurture as well as for the person. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know of a lot of carers who, because of the long-term stress of caring, the anxiety associated with it, the constant worry which happens, uh, and the physical toll also, it takes mental and physical
Yeah.
toll over a long period. I wouldn't use the term burden because we don't. Our people are not burdens. Yeah.
Correct. They are our loved
These
ones.
are responsibilities. We do that out of our love. These are not burdens.
Absolutely.
But at the end of the day, these are the outcomes that the carer has to bear, and the outcomes we can call them carers burnout or long-term burnout. That does happen. So I know of people who have approached therapists, even psychiatrists. Some are on long-term treatment themselves. So, and this is also important. So there is guilt also about, I have somebody who's so ill here, why should I bother about my small issues? And then that keeps worsening till then that reaches a stage of serious mental health condition itself. So that is the case with my own sister also. You have met Tejal, I suppose,
Yes.
Saraswati here.
Yes.
So being a carer for me for all these decades before marriage as well, my severe asthma as well as bipolar disorder and all the ailments I have lived with, she was one of the healthiest in the family member among our family, no issues at all. But years of these kind of stressors led to general anxiety disorder.
Oh, okay.
So now she is on treatment. She was also on therapy, and doing well now. But I have seen her going through horrors as well in the initial phase of struggle. So a lesson for other people: we cannot be those kind of sacrificial lambs and neglect our own self-care. That is also not the right way to go.
You have to build systems to, take care of yourself, coping mechanisms, I would say.
So it has to be sustainable for both, right?
Yes.
The key is it's being sustainable.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, you've covered the entire gamut, Vijay, so beautifully. Thank you so much. I hope our family carers, take these tips from you and, start taking care of not only themselves and then be able to take care of their loved ones.
Yeah. And
Thank
just
you
one
so
last
much.
parting thought I would like to share. Yeah.
Sure.
We have in our community, and these are the most rousing and inspiring stories for me, Saraswati. Families who have mothers and parents who had given up hope on their wards, and now I see their wards are such stalwarts, their leadership qualities. So the last parting message is that there is always hope. Yeah, please do not give up. Yeah, right. You never know when the turnaround happens. Yeah.
Absolutely true. There's always hope. There's light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much for having me. Thank you, sir.
Thank
Both
you
of you.
so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.